Every once in a while, a politician says one sentence that accidentally contains the entire problem. Not a scandal, not a gaffe. Just one sentence where, if you listen closely, you can hear the whole machine grinding. Seattle's mayor said one of those sentences at a community forum at Town Hall. She was talking about taxing big companies to close the city's budget gap, and here it is, word for word. I think companies can afford to pay more, but it's not good to give them an incentive to go over to Bellevue. Read that again. Both halves. Companies can afford to pay more, and taxing them more gives them a reason to leave. She said the policy and the reason the policy backfires in the same breath, and then kept going, because the plan is still to tax them more. That sentence is Seattle right now, a city staring at a projected $140 million budget hole for 2027, reaching for the same tool that helped carve the hole, while the person holding the tool openly admits it cuts the wrong way. I make these videos because I think the sentence underneath the headline is usually the real story. If that's how you like your news too, subscribe, and you're in the right place. Now let me show you the machine that sentence describes. The setting was a community forum at Town Hall, Seattle. A few hundred people in the room. The mayor, a self-described Democratic socialist who took office in January, was asked about the budget, and she laid it out plainly. Her team is, in her words, very hard at work looking for progressive revenue options, taxing the rich, taxing big business in a way that we think will be politically viable and practical. No specifics that night, but she didn't need to give any, because she'd already told voters during her campaign exactly what she has in mind. Expanding Jumpstart, Seattle's payroll tax on companies with high-earning employees, and creating a local capital gains tax on top earners. Now stack that on what Seattle businesses already pay, because this is the part that gets lost. Jumpstart already charges companies up to 2.4% on every employee earning over $150,000. There's a separate business and occupation tax on top of that. And starting this year, a third layer. Companies with employees making over $1 million pay an additional 5% on the salary above that line. That's the existing stack, before anything new gets added. And the state separately just passed its first ever income tax, 9.9% on household income over $1 million. So when the mayor says she's exploring new progressive revenue, understand what new means here. It means a fourth or fifth layer on top of a tower that's already one of the tallest in the country. To her credit, and I want to note it, she also said city departments are being asked to sketch out 5 and 10% spending cuts. That's real, and we'll come back to it. But the headline out of that room was unmistakable. The answer to the hole is more taxing. And the hole is worth looking at closely because how it got there is the whole argument. Here's what was happening in the same city, the same season, while that forum was going on. Oracle laid off 491 Seattle area workers. Meta cut another 168 Washington employees, on top of earlier rounds. Microsoft shed 600 more state jobs. Add the waves before them, and the region has lost more than 20,000 tech jobs. Starbucks, the company whose logo is Seattle to most of the world, announced a $100 million expansion and 2,000 corporate jobs in Nashville, Tennessee. Downtown, a quarter of the office space sits vacant. The downtown core shed 13,000 jobs in a single year. And in a February survey by the Association of Washington Business, 44% of business leaders said they were considering leaving the state. 44%. Nearly half the people who sign paychecks in Washington, telling a survey they're thinking about the exits. And the response, from the city's side, is a forum about which new tax is most politically viable. Look, no mayor caused 20,000 tech layoffs, AI restructuring, interest rates, a national tech correction. Those forces are bigger than any city hall, and I'll say more about that in a minute. But here's the thing about timing. When nearly half your business community is already halfway out the door, the question isn't whether a new tax is fair in the abstract. It's whether it's the nudge that turns considering into decided. You don't have to believe taxes started the fire to notice someone's proposing to pour accelerant near it. Now, about that word she used, Bellevue. Understand why that one word gives the game away. Bellevue isn't Texas, it's not Florida. It's not some distant tax haven that requires a company to uproot its workforce and start over. It's across the lake. 10 miles. You can see it from downtown Seattle. Same labor pool, same airport, same region, same everything, minus Seattle's tax stack, which means for a Seattle company, leaving doesn't even have to feel like leaving. You don't relocate, you drift. The next office lease gets signed across the lake. The next team gets built there. No press release, no dramatic exit, no moving trucks on the news. Amazon has already shifted thousands of jobs that direction. Every company weighing that Jumpstart bill knows the option exists and knows it's painless. That's what makes the mayor's sentence so damning. When she says it's not good to give them an incentive to go over to Bellevue, She's not describing a hypothetical risk. She's describing the specific, observed, already happening escape route, the one so easy that her own tax base can slide away without ever changing time zones. She knows the door is 10 minutes away and wide open. The plan is to raise the cost of staying anyway, and hope the door somehow doesn't get used. Cities can survive competing with Texas. The weather argues for you. What a city cannot survive is losing to its own suburb, because there's no counter-argument. Nobody's spouse refuses to move to Bellevue. Let me make this concrete because tax base erosion sounds like something that happens to spreadsheets. It happens to people. Picture someone who owns a small marketing firm in Seattle, 20 employees. A handful of them are senior people earning over $150,000, which means she's already paying Jumpstart on every one of them. She's not Amazon. She can't lobby, she doesn't have a government affairs team, and her margins are a rounding error compared to big techs. When the city talks about taxing big business, her name is never in the speech, but her tax bill is in the law. Now she watches this loop from the inside. The big companies, the ones the taxes were named after, drift to Bellevue or Nashville, taking their tax payments with them. The hole they leave gets bigger. The city responds by raising the rates on whoever's left, which now means her, more than ever, because the whales are gone and the nets get thrown at smaller fish. Her reward for staying loyal to the city is a larger share of the bill the leavers stopped paying. At some point, not out of ideology, just arithmetic, she does the math on a Bellevue lease. And when she goes, her 20 employees' lunches go with her, her office lease goes dark, and the loop tightens by exactly one more notch. That's the machine. Taxes aimed at giants, landing on everyone, pushing out the mobile and rebilling the loyal. Each turn is sold as fairness. Each turn shrinks the number of people the fairness is charged to. Now let me Steelman the mayor's position for real, because it's not empty. First, the deficit is real, and doing nothing is also a choice. One that means cutting libraries, parks, shelters, transit. The people who depend on those services didn't cause the tech correction either. Asking the wealthiest city in the Pacific Northwest to fund its safety net through its richest residents is not an insane moral position. It's what her voters elected her to do. She won on exactly this platform, and democracy counts. Second, the layoffs genuinely aren't hers. Oracle, Meta, and Microsoft are cutting jobs everywhere, not just Washington. The office vacancy crisis is national. Anyone pinning the entire tech downturn on one first-year mayor is selling you something. Third, and this deserves real credit, she is asking departments to model 5 and 10% cuts. That's more spending discipline than critics give her credit for, and it complicates the cartoon version of this story. All fair. Here's what still doesn't resolve. The cuts are hypothetical exercises. The tax push is the actual plan being worked on. The layoffs may be national, but the response to them is local. And the response to a shrinking base is to bill it harder. And the moral case for taxing the rich runs into a physical problem no moral argument can fix. The rich can drive to Bellevue. A tax that's just can still be a tax that's gone. And her own sentence can afford to pay more but shouldn't be incentivized to leave shows she knows both halves. Knowing both halves and choosing the loop anyway isn't a knowledge problem. It's a choice. So here's where this lands. A city with a $140 million hole. A business community 44% of which is eyeing the door. A suburb 10 minutes away with its arms open. 20,000 tech jobs already gone. And a plan, the only concrete plan on the table, to raise the price of staying. And the person proposing it already told you how it ends. Not her critics. Her. It's not good to give them an incentive to go over to Bellevue. That's not my thesis, and that's hers. The whole argument of this video was made by the person the video is about, in one sentence, at a community forum, before going right back to the plan the sentence undermines. Here's the thing I keep coming back to, and it's bigger than Seattle. When a government's own logic argues against its own policy, and the policy proceeds anyway, that's when you learn what's actually driving decisions. And it isn't arithmetic. It's momentum. It's the political impossibility of standing in front of your own coalition and saying, the thing we promised doesn't work at this altitude. Every city in this loop hits that moment eventually. Seattle just hit it out loud. If you're in Seattle, I genuinely want to know, from inside the city, does this feel like a budget being balanced or a base being built on its way out? Put it in the comments. The view from the ground beats my view from the data every time. That's it for this one. Go easy out there.